So we are called Homo sapiens. Homo for hominids, because we are bipedal, we walk on two legs. But we are also called sapiens. Sapiens means wise. So we are wise, that's why, right? That's our name. And yet we are anything but wise. We're irrational. Worse yet, we're actually predictably irrational. That's ridiculous, but that's what the author Dan Ariely tells us. He's a professor at MIT, so it's like we cannot just simply ignore him. I wish we could, but we can't. He tells us a bunch of different evidence to buttress up his argument. So for example, he tells us that if you're on a date and you want to look more handsome to your date, so best thing to do is to bring a decoy friend who's less good looking than you are, and then all of a sudden you're a prince in shining armor. That's how irrational we are. That's how pitiful we are. And yet there are much examples, number of experiments that were done to show this irrationality that we have. That's really ingrained in us. There's no going around that. So he tells us about the experiment that they did with students at University of California, Berkeley, where they had them under hot conditions or cold conditions. Undergrad students, some sexually explicit material. And they found that when they do that, and they asked them about their willingness to engage in odd sexual activities, I'm quoting from the book, twice as many were willing to do that than when they were in the cold condition. He also tells us about this example where this rationality clearly has been with us for eons. So back in the year 800 AD, there was Charlemagne, who was crowned as emperor by the Pope. And so you'd have people rushing to be touched by the emperor, the healing touch. That's how irrational we are. Fast forward 1200 years later, and the crazy part is that you pretty much see more or less the same thing. Not necessarily from emperors. We don't have a lot of these anymore, but you find people trying to be close to power, those with titles. That's not going away. So this, perhaps these kind of insights, I think, would require someone who has gone through a certain agony in their life to realize that these kind of insights. The author, unfortunately, had gone through this severe burn, third-degree burn, that necessitated the changes in the wound. And you can imagine the pain that went on with it. Let me just quote for you a part from his book that I thought was particularly relevant. So he tells us about the suit that he was supposed to be wearing in the hope that it might accelerate the healing process. And he tells us that he suffered with this treatment for months, aching, struggling to wear it, and tearing my delicate new skin while trying to put it on. And with this new skin tears, it takes a long time to heal. At the end, the crazy part is that it turned out that the treatment did not, and all he was left with is this agony. This kind of insight really requires a special author to come up with, to discover those kind of insights. He actually concludes with a beautiful conclusion. I cannot improve on it, so I'm just going to read to you part of it, just an extract from his conclusion. He tells us that we usually think of ourselves sitting in the driver's seat with ultimate control over our decisions we make and the direction of our lives. But alas, this perception has more to do with our desire than with reality. We vastly underestimate the ability of factors to control our lives, directions of our lives. He actually concludes with this beautiful term. He tells us about we fall for these decision illusions. What a delicious term. It's something that I've been struggling with for a while to try to discover these. So I ask you, what are your decision illusions? Think about that.